We are CEOs, executives, educators, and professionals from all sectors of society who support the global expansion of betterment in the world through joy and joyily. I'm your host, Cheryl Lynn, founder of the Chair of Joy Experience. Together, we have developed the World Council of Joy, and our council invites CEOs and innovators from impactful organizations to the Joyly podcast. We showcase how generous, bold, and fully engaged they are in their work and what a culture of joy is to them. Good day, everyone. Cheryl Lynn here with the Joyly podcast, and I could not be more pleased to bring everyone another episode of a conversation where we focus on why joy matters and what our guest is doing in the world to create more joy for herself and the people she serves. We focus on high potential leaders who are really driven to make a difference in their lives and in other people's lives as well. So we are excited today to be speaking with J.D May. So you are coming to us from Texas today, and you are a best-selling author. So let's get to the good stuff. First of all, tell me a little bit about you and where you are in the world and what brings us together today.
Well, I live in far South Texas on the Mexican border between Brownsville and South Padre Island in a citrus community, grapefruit and oranges and alligators and water and every kind of wildlife you can imagine, from an Indian antelope called a nilgai and wild pigs that come into my yard. And I have a husband, Buster, and a daughter that lives in San Antonio, married with a 9-month-old new grandbaby.
So tell me a little bit about how you have been traveling around the world and why it is you decided to, as a grandma, write your first Amazon best-selling book in the thriller business. So tell us sort of that process and how you got to today.
Okay. Well, I wasn't a grandmother when I started writing. I started writing before my daughter was born. She's 30 years old. I lost my first husband and found out 2 weeks later I was pregnant with her. So the first book, Factor 7, was written in the early 90s. I had it finished, but I never submitted it. I never had it edited. I did nothing. I just put it away in a closet until she was in it might have been the last year of college or her first year in the business world. And she found it in the closet and read it and said, "Mom, you got to rewrite this." And I said, "Oh, I don't know." It took me a couple of years, and I sat back down. And so the Factor 7 that is of today is just a smidgen of what it was in the 90s. It's just still the same name. The Factor 7 was a virus. There is a virus, and it was that way in 1990. And I just updated it, added to it, and made it a whole new book. It does call upon my travels and things, but has been in the works for 30 years. So it didn't just happen when I became a grandmother. In fact, when I became a grandmother, it was already written and done.
Talk about a labor of love. I really appreciate that is being born into our day and age from all those years ago. So you said, and I'm sure that this is true, that the characters speak to you. So tell me how through the years, not only were they speaking to you when you wrote it, but how they show up even now and what that means exactly.
Well, I think I put them to sleep for a long time, but they came back awake real fast. And people think I'm kind of crazy when I say they literally tell me where they want to go and what they want to do. And I don't write like typical writers, or at least I don't write the way you're taught in creative writing classes. So I start with an idea, and I know where I'm going to end the idea, but what comes in between is between me and the characters and where they want to go and what they want to do. And I wake up in the middle of the night having had a dream and get up and write down notes or do the chapter. And it's generally what I've dreamed about and what the characters are telling me they want to do. And when I finished the first chapter 7, 18 months, 2 years ago, I kind of missed my characters. So we're in a sequel right now. We're about 3/4 of the way through because I wanted to bring back my people. Call me crazy.
I love that. And so tell me, what else are you working on right now? And also a little bit more about your artistry. I hear that you showcase some of your art around the community. So we'd love to hear a little bit about that as well.
Okay. Well, I'm writing the sequel, which has got a working title of GERMLINE, which follows the same people, the Mexican cartel, foreign enemies of the United States and her allies. And it's a frightening scenario, but it's a plausible scenario. And that's about all I'm going to say right now, because it's about 3/4 of the way finished. I hope that it will be finished and ready to go into print sometime early summer, maybe late spring, something like that, and probably would be released sometime in the fall. My artwork, I've painted virtually all of my life, or drawn, or done something, and I was doing a lot of it before I sat down and wrote. I'm not doing as much right now, but I have been showing my artwork at a local gallery in Port Isabel, Texas. And it's a co-op where everybody spends a little time, and we put our paintings up and sell them from there. And we keep most of the profits, but the co-op gets part of it. And it's been a fun opportunity to be with the rest of the artists, and I hope to be able to get back to painting, but right now, my joy is my writing. It's really where I find myself, is when I'm doing my writing. I do my best work as writing.
I feel so much joy in you for that. Specifically about your art that brings you such joy. Is it acrylics, or is it the specific character painting, or what specifically about the art is it that brings you so much joy?
I paint with acrylics now. I used to paint with oils, but I paint with acrylics, and my art is bright colored. Most of my work in the last, I'd say 10 years, is more focused on the tropical, where we live, the birds, the seabirds, the fish, beach scenes, sunsets, palm trees, things with a little bit, of course, my personal touch to it. Sometimes the colors are not the colors of nature, but what goes on the canvas from my aspect of it. But I do more of the tropical scenes, and that seems to be what they wanted in the gallery, because Port Isabel, Texas, where we show our art, is literally a causeway away from South Padre Island. So people who come down and are looking to put paintings and things in their condos want the tropical, want the fish, want the birds, and I enjoy painting birds. It's one of my favorites. So I do a lot of that. But yeah, I do mainly acrylics, and I do large works, pretty good size works, things that you might hang over your sofa or a bed or something like that. I used to do smaller works, but I don't know. I've just gotten into the bigger canvases.
I appreciate that. And I just had first trip out of the house was to South Padre Island when I was 17 or 17 and a half years old. And I drove on a bus with a bunch of college mates and went down to South Padre. And it was one of the most memorable weeks of my life. So I was a stone's throw away from you there.
Spring break. Spring break. Wild and crazy times.
I bet you see a lot of amazing people come through there, and a lot of wild parties. So tell me a little bit more about your travels around the world, if you don't mind, Diane.
No, I went to school in Mexico, San Miguel de Allende. Right out of high school, I went down and studied art and Spanish and theater. And because I loved it so much, after I had my daughter Annalyn in 92, when she was 5, I think it was, we began to go down there and spend summers there. And she would go to school at the American school, which taught her the language and taught her the cultures of the area and the history of the area. And she learned a lot. And we spent quite a few summers down there. We drove down there. It was my dog, Annalyn, and I, and it was safe to do it at that point. But there came a time that it just wasn't, I didn't feel comfortable doing it anymore, so we stopped. But we're thinking about making another trip to San Miguel. It's a quaint little lovely town, and a lot of Americans and Canadians and British live there. So it's a whole conglomerate of nationalities that live there. I also have spent quite a bit of time in Italy. I had a friend who I knew when I was living in Houston. I'm from the Rio Grande Valley, but I lived in Houston for quite some time and then moved back when my daughter was 3 to the Rio Grande Valley where I am now. But I had a friend who I knew in Houston, and she married a cardiologist. And so I would go over and spend time with her. And poor little thing had a house on Capri, so got to spend a lot of time on Capri and Positano. And so I draw on that and use those locations in my book, knowing, in fact, she lived in an ancient castle and in Castillo Mar, which is between Sorrento and Naples. And that's where I put Rainey, a character in my book, as her home, looking out over the Bay of Naples and see Vesuvius. And so it's all in the book, but yeah. The only place that I wrote about in Factor 7 that I've never been is Mali. I have not been to Mali, and I quite frankly don't think I probably will, but I did a lot of research on it so I could put it in the book. We used to have a home. My parents had a home in British Columbia, Campbell River, British Columbia. It used to be known as the salmon capital of the world. And my dad learned to salmon fish and go out into the Strait of Georgia. And we spent many summers up there. And they were there usually 6 months. But after Annalyn was born, and I'm an only child, and she was probably going to be their only grandchild, they decided they would sell that. But so I do also mention Campbell River, and some of the beauty and the things that we did in Campbell River is also in the book. So I draw upon my personal experiences in Factor 7, at least the locales that I choose.
Well, I love that. So Diane's website is author at J.D May.
Author J.D May.
And I listened to your trailer, and I listened to your trailer, and I cannot wait to read the book. So it was very thrilling and fascinating, and I think it would be a lot of fun to listen to. So if you could tell us a little bit more about becoming
it's an adult read.
If you could tell us a little bit more about becoming a best-selling author on Amazon, and if we have any authors listening today, that what they might learn from you about this process.
Well, I didn't do it alone. Our friend Michael helped me along, knowing what to do. It's very difficult to maneuver and to work with Amazon. They have their own ways of doing things, and it's secret to, like, their algorithms are pretty much secret to most of us that are the writer part. It has to do with each day is different on Amazon. Some days you'll sell more books than others, and getting to be a bestseller on Amazon is critical, in my opinion, to growing your base and selling books, because it may or may not actually be something. There's a lot of things that I've read on the internet that, it's not that big of a deal to be a bestseller because of the way New York Times and all of them set up their bestseller lists. It's all different, and but in my opinion, it's a very critical factor. And I suggest that people reach out to professionals that can help them gain some of the things that you can't do on your own. But there are other people, such as Mike, that I think can really send you over the top. And I think you shouldn't be afraid to ask for help, and know that when you write a book, it's not going to be cheap. There's some things that you're going to have to, you're going to have to pay for some things. You're going to have to pay for some publicity, because just writing a book and putting it on Amazon and the other major bookstores, which my book is available everywhere books are sold, does not get you to be a bestseller. Your name's got to be out there. Your book's got to be out there. And give that book away and tell people, ask people, please write a review. Put it on Goodreads. Put it on Amazon. If you buy a book from Amazon, please, I ask you to put a review, because that's what people look for when they're getting ready to buy something, particularly a thriller. If you're looking for a self-help book, you probably go to the category of which you're interested in. But if you're looking at thrillers and you like science fiction, or you like medical fiction, or you like whatever, it is. The reviews are going to lead you to the book that's going to, you're going to want to go to bed with and turn those pages.
So I would like to move on to a
Yes.
conversation that I would like to have with you regarding joy, basically, that you are this joyful human being. It sounds like you always have been. It sounds like you're living an amazing life. And part of the inspiration to that, I believe, was your father. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yes.
Yes, please tell us more, a little bit about how he is and who he was and how he impacted your life, around joy specifically.
Well, I was a daddy's girl. Still am. I lost Daddy in June from advanced Alzheimer's, and before he was stricken with that insidious disease, he was a man that no was not in his vocabulary. He knew that if he wanted to do something, he could do it, and he did. And he was the type of a person who found joy in everything. Everything he did, he found joy. He did everything. He was a hunter until he didn't want to kill anymore and just wanted to photograph, but he still wanted the outdoors and be there. He was an avid fisherman and was great at that. He owned his own airplane and flew everywhere. He opened a business without any knowledge of what he was doing, just learned from an older man and bought the man out early on and made a success out of it. He was a self-made man who literally took life by the reins and rode it like a wild bronco until he could do that no more. And, one of the things that he always made clear to me was you'd say, "How are you, Daddy?" And he'd say, "I'm terrific." Didn't matter. He suffered from rheumatoid arthritis and he hurt a lot of the times, but he didn't complain. He was terrific. And he always said, if you tell yourself you're terrific, you're going to be. You're going to be terrific that day. But if you wake up moaning and groaning and fussing, and it's going to be that way the rest of the day for you. And so that was kind of something that he instilled in me. And the other thing was success is when preparation meets opportunity. You have to make your own opportunities a lot of the time, but preparation meets opportunity is when you can become a success. And you got to grab it and you've got to seize it when that happens to you.
Thank you for sharing that. And let's take a moment and remember his legacy and the impact that he's created, because it's obviously carrying through many generations. And I'm going to read a little something, and then I would love for you on the other side of this to share how it is that you continue to be this joyful human, even on a level of consciousness that might be around grief or sadness or, a deep level of concern or even loneliness, maybe somehow. How is it that you get up and you show up every day in this incredible state of joy? Maybe it's not constant, but it's continuous. So this is what I would like to read real quick. It says, my father is a man like no other. He gave me life, nurtured me, taught me, dressed me, fought for me, held me, shouted at me, kissed me, but mostly importantly, loved me unconditionally. There are not enough words I can say to you to describe how important my father was to me and what a powerful influence he continues to be. I love you, Dad. So back to you. What could you say to us to help us if some of us are going through some of those moments?
Well, I love that, what you just wrote, because it kind of epitomizes the way I feel about him. But, you make your own way and you make your own joy in life. And if you are fortunate enough to have parents like I did that nurture you, I think that helps you along the way. But in my opinion, there's a difference between happiness and joy. Happiness is a fleeting moment, a bowl of chocolate ice cream. Joy is something that you have in your heart and you take it with you everywhere you go. And grief is part of it. You can't have happiness or joy unless you have had sadness and grief. One is important to the other one, but you can't lose the joy that you carry in your heart, because you lose everything. When you give up, when you just allow the circumstances to control you and you don't control your circumstances, then you lose that joy. And it's a part of life that I think you learn as you get older. I think that those in the 20s look at joy as something that immediate gratification is their joy. And I think through life you learn that that's not joy. That may be temporary happiness, but joy is the consistency of moving and keeping going and finding, using the word again, finding that joy that you carry in your heart, love, faith, family, drawing upon and learning what your real talents are. And your real talents may not be any more than make another person feel good, but that's you're giving your joy to someone else. If all you can do that day is say something nice to someone, that's going to give them a little bit of joy that maybe they weren't going to have. And when you do that and smile at someone or pay someone's tab at the ice cream parlor, that gives joy back into the world. And I think the more joy and happiness that you can give out, you're going to get more of it in. I think that's just the way creation is made. And I think that love is the bottom of joy. If you cannot love nature and family and people and animals and love, if you cannot have love, then you can't have joy, period.
You're absolutely right. Love is a fuel to joy. And until we can love unconditionally and as a group, be in a non-judgmental frame of mind, I don't think we can ever get to joy or fully living joyfully, which is why I would love to share the Chair of Joy practice with you. And before I do that, real quick, I wanted to just share that Joyly is really about bringing a community of people together so that we can kind of be in united we stand, right? Divided we fall. Like, how do we get together in this practice of joy and benefit from all the plethora of benefits that we can gather based on a interconnected community. So one of the couple of the things that we are noticing that people are receiving are a strong sense of development and self-worth and insight and open-mindedness and empathy. Success is coming in all kinds of different ways, measured through health and wealth and wellness metrics, and also lowering stress and higher self-esteem. So joy really is the highest vibrated emotion on the planet, which is why I'm so excited that you were able to share the stories that you were. So would you mind going through the Chair of Joy practice with me quickly?
I'd love to.
And everybody's like, what does she mean?
I don't know either, but I'm going to learn.
So you can see back there, I have this lovely chair that I carry around the country with me, and it's been to about 35 cities and 1,000 people have sat in. I brought it all the way down to Texas. I went through Dallas and Austin, and I'm sorry I missed you, but I for sure will see you again. But basically the idea is that it's a way to call attention to a chair of joy. So we all have chairs in our house, or we can call a bench or a porch or, a stool or a deck on our backyard, a chair of joy. So if I were to ask you, Diane, quickly, where in your house, away from the busyness, if you will, is your chair of joy? If you could point to one right now in your house, where would that be?
It's probably on my patio outside, because when and you can't see it, I can't even lift the computer, but I live on water. And it's pretty joyous just to go out and sit under the big bow tree. And that would be my place of joy, I do believe.
No worries. Thank you for sharing that. There's a full moon tonight, so be sure to get out there tonight. But in the full moon, I just wanted to mention too, there's pause, or sitting in your chair of joy. There's a reason to pause and to kind of put your feet on the ground, look around at the water and the boats going by and the freedom of that. And also, what do you hear? What is one thing that you specifically hear when you're outside on your deck chair?
Finally, a better way to hold your phone. Introducing Steady Straps. Made here in the USA, Steady Straps are high-quality, flexible straps that adjust to hold virtually any phone comfortably and securely. Steady Straps are washable and come in a wide range of colors and styles. See them all at SteadyStraps.com. Because they're so visible, they're the perfect promotional item to advertise your company message or logo. Learn more at SteadyStraps.com. That's SteadyStraps.com.
Oh, well, there's the in the daytime it's the birds, at night it's the night birds, and then of course the cicadas are singing right now, and yeah, and it's maybe an occasional splash of a fish. I guess the main thing though is that I have a tribe of feral cats that are spayed and neutered that live here, and they're all around me meowing and wanting. They used to be feral, now they want to sit in my lap. So I guess the main thing I hear are cat meows, which brings me joy.
That's beautiful. And so just kind of let those moments resonate. And this is kind of the chair of joy practice, is to just 3 or 4 times a day, can you get out to your chair of joy and just take a moment and listen to those sounds and see the sounds. And then the next part is I have everyone, I loved what you said about the fish, right? The fish are always out there. And I think that I like to sort of equate fish to our thoughts, right? Always thoughts jumping around in our brain, like they're like fish jumping out of the water. So when we're sitting still, the fish have an opportunity to sort of swim under the water and just settle and sort of collaborate with themselves and come up with new outcomes and solutions. So sitting in your chair of joy causes that to happen. So while that's happening, I'd love for you to take a couple of deep breaths. And I always say like ocean breaths in. So an ocean is a wave is 6 seconds in. If you could do that with me, and 6 seconds out. Have you taken a deep breath yet today?
Yeah.
And one more.
I don't think I have.
All right, let's do one more. The coolest thing about this process is it's not an eye closed or a sit down, have to do 20 minutes of meditation. It's really a simple, quick process. So while you're doing your deep breath, I wonder if you could tap into one of your most joyful memories of your entire life, when things were just really working out for you. And if you need to take one more deep breath, but I wonder if you could land on one thing and share that with me and our audience in just a couple of sentences.
Mm-hmm. Oh, wow. I've had so many wonderful moments in my life. I mean, I have been so blessed. To choose one would have to probably be the birth of my daughter, I suppose.
Her name?
And then the second would be the birth of my granddaughter. Her name is Annlyn, Annlyn, and she's 29 years old. And yeah, that would probably be one of the most glorious, joyous days of my life.
Memory number 1 is the birth of your granddaughter and your grandchild. And so now I would love for you to take one more quick deep breath in. I want you to go to another place, another time, maybe when you were a little girl or just this morning when things were like, oh, that was a really cool, joyful moment. And share that with us.
Riding my horse through the cotton rows out in Primera, Texas. It was the kind of times that nobody had cell phones, and I would get on my horse or my bike, or usually the horse, and be gone from daylight to dinner time, and nobody worried about you. You were out, you were safe. Nobody was abusing children, or maybe if they were, they weren't where I was. And you had cell phones. Your parents didn't worry about you. And you knew that dinner time was at 5:30, 6 o'clock, and you'd come home at that length of time. And I think those were joyous days, wonderful, joyous days.
That sounds absolutely glorious. You riding out in the woods and in the cotton rows all by yourself all day long. So my next question is, if you could take the moments of the birth of your granddaughter and child and sort of let those moments, the day of, and just seeing her, and let those moments sort of resonate from your head to your toe of the birth. And then also what you see and feel when you're riding that horse, and just let that also, what were the sights and the sounds and the smells and the grass and the fences and the trees, and again, just let those resonate from your head to your toe. And if I could ask you to come up with one word that could describe both of those memories of joy, what would you say that one word was to sort of depict the essence of those memories? What word would you give them?
Well, incredible would be too trite, I suppose. Blessing,
Blessings. They're both
incredible.
great.
Um,
Let's use two words: incredible blessings. And the last question is,
That's
if you could put incredible blessings into a container, what container would that look like? How could you put it into something physical if you had to?
I would probably put it inside a piece of Belgium or German cut glass that I inherited from my great aunt, that is one of the most exquisite pieces of crystal you can lay your eyes on. And I would think that that would appropriately carry those feelings from 1890s when she was born to the 2021 that I am here. Those emotions would stay in that piece of cut glass and be there for another 100 years.
That is so beautiful. And if you and I were on a plane and, one of your glorious places, and we were jumping off the plane, and people that were watching us don't really understand this crystal glass, this bottle that we put your incredible blessings of joy in, what would you say to them if you could sort of share the essence of that? What would be your comments to them so that they would get on the same train as you?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe find your own vessel to carry your blessings in. Your heart's probably big enough to do that.
But what if I don't have time, they say? I don't know how to do that. What are you talking about exactly, Diane?
You don't have time not to. You don't have time not to find joy. You're wasting time.
I'm taking a quick note because I'm going to quote you when we get off of this, but that was beautiful. And last but not least, if you could give this vessel away to somebody on the planet today, who would you give it to and why?
I'd give it to my daughter and let her pass it around.
I love it.
That's what I would do.
That's basically the chair of joy, Diane. You made it through successfully, and thank you for your wisdom. What I tell people is
I don't know.
Yes, it's very, very cool. I've had neuroscientists help me create that, along with Kevin Tracy, who is a member of Hallmark for many, many years. He traveled and did missionary work all along. He's such a great listener. And what we did was basically we took your joy, your two memories, and made them tangible by giving them a word and putting them in the container, and then allowing you to speak your truth or your legacy to the world, which is really, when people do this, it's often what they need to hear in the moment themselves, like, oh yeah, play was the word. And gosh, why am I not taking time to play? Like I really want to do that today. And so it kind of moves them into their joy on a continuous, regular basis. And when that happens, and we do raise our vibration of joy like you are, I completely celebrate you, because it's a rare find to find somebody who could show up in that every day for the most part, not all day long, because, we get to feel grief and sadness and all the things we talked about earlier, but we do get to be joyful by activating and being aware of it on a daily basis. So thank you for doing that with me today and helping me share that message.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I had never done an exercise like that. It's quite interesting.
So my question is, I don't know how many times you get to your chair of joy on the deck during the day, but could you get there a few more times if you took some time to do that on a daily basis?
Oh, I know I could. I know I could. I could probably walk away from the dishwasher and the washing machine more. How's that?
It is true.
I'd love to do that.
Who wouldn't? And when thousands of us and eventually millions and billions of us are raising our vibrations of joy, can we not affect social issues? And I think that's my last question for you. And anything else you'd like to add is, if you had a magic wand and it was filled with joy and there was no obstacles in your way, what one thing would you accomplish in this lifetime, or what one thing would you address, with all this amazing energy that we've created today to solve?
One thing I would like to see is goodwill among all men. All men and women, goodwill. Respect each other. Stop the nonsense. Put that love that's in everybody innately. There is love in everyone innately. It's just some people have to hunt for it. And I think that's that's just part of it. I just think we got to get together. Got to get together and love one another. Isn't that an old song? I think I'll write it if it wasn't written already. I think it was.
Well, I wish you. Thank
Or
you,
John
Pat.
Lennon's Imagine.
I wish you all the best luck in the world on your book and your upcoming book as well. And I can't wait to read it. The trailer was so intriguing, and everybody can find it on Amazon. It's easy to remember, but just give everybody the title and where they can buy it and your website one more time.
It's Factor 7, and it's available everywhere books are sold. Amazon, just go to Amazon, type in books and type in Factor 7, and it'll pop up, and you can click it with one click and buy it. It's also available Barnes and Noble and all independent bookstores around as well. Well, anybody who wants to contact me on my website or my Facebook page, my Facebook is author J.D May. That's my website. Contact me, and if you buy a book, you may send it to me, and I'll sign it and send it back to you, and I'll include a little goodie with it if you want to take the time to do that. Hats and pins and all the little swag stuff.
I'd love
a little
to
gift to come along with it. I have so appreciated the time. Thank you for having me.
This podcast is a part of the C-Suite Radio Network. For more top business podcasts, visit c-suiteradio.com.